Good evening. How are you? Are you ready for the next little bit of The Secret Garden? We're going to do chapter 3 tonight, and chapter 3 is called Across the Moor. I'm ready to go across the moor. I can imagine going across the moor right now. I wonder if it is as nice an experience as I imagine it to be for Mary, or whether it's a little bit of a unpleasant experience for Mary. We'll find out in a moment, won't we? Pause me whilst you get yourselves comfy, get your snacks and stuff. I'll be right here when you unpause, I promise. If you need to pause, do it right now. Chapter 3, Across the Moor. She slept a long time, and when she awakened, Mrs. Medlock had bought a lunch basket at one of the stations, and they had some chicken and cold beef and bread and butter and some hot tea. The rain seemed to be streaming down more heavily than ever, and everybody in the station wore wet and glistening waterproofs. The guard lighted the lamps in the carriage, and Mrs. Medlock cheered up very much over her tea and chicken and beef. She ate a great deal and afterwards fell asleep herself. Mary sat and stared at her and watched her fine bonnet slip on one side until she herself fell asleep once more in the corner of the carriage, lulled by the splashing of the rain against the windows. It was quite dark when she awakened again. The train had stopped at a station, and Mrs. Medlock was shaking her. "You have had a sleep." That's not Mrs. Medlock's voice. Let's try that again. "You have had a sleep," she said. "It's time to open your eyes. We're at Thwaite Station. We've got a long drive before us." Mary stood up and tried to keep her eyes open whilst Mrs. Medlock collected her parcels. The little girl did not offer to help her because in India servants always picked up or carried things, and it seemed quite proper that other people should wait on one. The station was a small one, and nobody but themselves seemed to be getting out of the train. The station master spoke to Mrs. Medlock in a rough, good-natured way, pronouncing his words in a strange broad fashion, which Mary found afterwards was Yorkshire. "I see thou's got back," he said, "and thou's brought the young'un with thee." "Aye, that's her," said Mrs. Medlock, speaking with a Yorkshire accent herself and jerking her head over her shoulder towards Mary. "How's the missus?" "Oh, well enough. The carriage is waiting outside for thee." A brougham stood in the road before the little outside platform. Mary saw that it was a smart carriage and that it was a smart footman who helped her in. His long waterproof coat and waterproof covering of his hat were shining and dripping with rain as everything was, the burly station master included. When he shut the door, mounted the box with the coachman, and they drove off, the little girl found herself seated in a comfortably cushioned corner, but she was not inclined to go to sleep again. She sat and looked out of the window, curious to see something of the road over which she was being driven to the strange place Mrs. Medlock had spoken of. She was not at all a timid child, and she was not exactly frightened, but she felt that there was no knowing what might happen in a house with 100 rooms nearly all shut up, a house standing on the edge of a moor. "What is a moor?" she said suddenly to Mrs. Medlock. "Look out at the window in about 10 minutes and ye shall see," the woman answered. "We got to drive 5 miles across Missel Moor before we get to manor. You won't see much because it's dark night, but you'll see something." Mary asked no more questions, but waited in the darkness of her corner, keeping her eyes on the window. The carriage lamps cast rays of light a little distance ahead of them, and she caught glimpses of the things they passed. After they'd left the station, they'd driven through a tiny village, and she'd seen whitewashed cottages and the lights of a public house. Then they had passed a church and a vicarage and a little shop window or so in the cottage with toys and sweets and odd things set out for sale. Then they were on the high road. She saw hedges and trees. After that, there seemed nothing different for a long time, or at least it seemed a long time to her. At last the horses began to go more slowly, as if they were climbing uphill. Presently there seemed to be no more hedges and no more trees. She could see nothing, in fact, but a dense darkness on either side. She leaned forward and pressed her face against the window just as the carriage gave a big jolt. We're on moor now, sure enough," said Mrs. Medlock. The carriage lamps shed a yellow light on a rough-looking road which seemed to be cut through bushes and low-growing things which ended up in the great expanse of dark apparently spread out before and around them. A wind was rising and making a singular, wild, low, rushing sound. It's not the sea, is it?" said Mary, looking round at her companion. "No, not it," answered Mrs. Medlock. "Nor it ain't fields nor mountains. Just miles and miles and miles of wild land that nothing grows on but heather and gorse and broom. Nothing lives on it but wild ponies and sheep." "I feel as if it might be the sea, if there were water on it. It sounds like the sea just now." "That's wind blowing through bushes," Mrs. Medlock said. "It's a wild, dreary enough place to my mind, though there's plenty that likes it, particularly when heather's in bloom." On and on they drove through the darkness, and though the rain stopped, the wind rushed by and whistled and made strange sounds. The road went up and down, and several times the carriage passed over a little bridge beneath which water rushed very fast with a great deal of noise. Mary felt as if the drive would never come to an end, and that the wide, bleak moor was a wide expanse of black ocean through which she was passing on a strip of dry land. "I don't like it," she said to herself. "I don't like it," and she pinched her thin lips more tightly together. The horses were climbing up a hilly piece of road when she first caught sight of a light. Mrs. Medlock saw it as soon as she did, and drew a long sigh of relief. "Am I glad to see a little bit of light twinkling," she exclaimed. "It's the light in the lodge window. We shall get a good cup of tea after a bit at all events." It was after a bit, as she said, for when the carriage passed through the park gates there was still 2 miles of avenue to drive through, and the trees, which nearly met overhead, made it seem as if they were driving through a long, dark vault. They drove out of the vault into a clear space and stopped before an immensely long but low-built house, which seemed to ramble round a stone court. At first Mary thought there were no lights at all in the windows, but as she got out of the carriage she saw that one room in a corner upstairs showed a dull glow. The entrance door was a huge one made of massive, curiously shaped panels of oak, studded with big iron nails and bound with great iron bars. It opened into an enormous hall which was so dimly lighted that the faces in the portraits on the walls and the figures in the suits of armour made Mary feel that she did not want to look at them. As she stood on the stone floor she looked a very small, very odd little black figure, and she felt as small and lost and odd as she looked. A neat, thin old man stood near the manservant who opened the door for them. "You had to take her to her room," he said in a husky voice. "He don't want to see her. He's going to London in the morning." "Very well, Mr. Pitcher," Mrs. Medlock answered. "So long as I know what's expected of me, I can manage." "What's expected of you, Mrs. Medlock," Mr. Pitcher said, "is that you make sure that he's not disturbed, and that he don't see what he don't want to see." And then Mary Lennox was led up a broad staircase and down a long corridor and up a short flight of steps and through another corridor and another until a door opened in a wall and she found herself in a room with a fire in it and supper on a table. Mrs. Medlock said unceremoniously, "Well, here you are. This room and the next are where you'll live. You must keep to 'em. Don't you forget." It was in this way Mistress Mary arrived at Misselthwaite Manor, and she had perhaps never felt quite so contrary in all her life. There you go. That's chapter 3, Across the Moor. Chapter 4, which we'll have tomorrow, is called Martha. Wonder who Martha's going to be. Have you got any guesses? That could be one thing that you talk about below. Who do you reckon Martha is going to be? She is the title, I'm guessing it's a she, is the title of chapter 4 after all, so a big character? I don't know. We'll find out. Hey, someone else has commented on our discussion though. It's our friend Lady C. Hey, Lady C. Best start ever, Lady C says. Someone used to watch Mr. Ben. Do you know, Lady C, as I was filming that intro to part 1, I did imagine Mr. Ben, and I thought, someone's going to comment Mr. Ben about this, and do you know what? I thought it would be Lady C, and I was right. It sounds from the way the chapter has been written, this is chapter 1, that Mary has had no interaction with any other children, having only had adults in the form of servants that will do everything she wants to commune with. She doesn't know any better. She's a social misfit by circumstance, and now all face-to-face interaction will be an utter culture shock, and she'll get it wrong. A bit like me. This will make it harder for her to continue to interact and isolate her further, making it seem like she is unapproachable. Personally, I have to say I feel desperately sorry for her, knowing it's about to become a lonelier, darker world for her. And then Lady C has commented on chapter 2 about Basil. Remember Basil? I think clergyman, maybe the clergyman's son. Basil is a bully, so first interaction with other children has had to be defensive. So I've written down some discussion points for us for tonight as well. So I think, and I've written down a lot of discussion points. I won't do them all, though. I've just been thinking about them all day. So here is my first question about the moor, and thinking about how Hodgson Burnett paints the picture of the moor. Now, I've been to the Yorkshire moors before. I've been a lot up to the Yorkshire moors before. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Maybe you've seen images of them, like on YouTube or something. Other online streaming platforms are available. Maybe you've seen photographs of them. But it says, how does the description of the moor make you feel? Is it wild and scary, or is it wild and magical? Those of you who have read Wuthering Heights, that's a very, very vivid description of the moors painted there, isn't it, by Bronte? It is like, well, it's often linked to Heathcliff's moods, isn't it? The moors there, and Heathcliff's moods are linked to the moors. So maybe Hodgson Burnett is creating a mood through the moors as well. Maybe, again, there's no right answer. It's just me thinking out loud here. Maybe you could think out loud by typing it underneath. Also, hang on. Oh, where is it? Here it is. So, Mary, the people that she's met on her journey so far, think about it was the clergyman and his wife and their children. Then it was Mrs. Medlock. Then it was the station master. Then it was the footman. Remember, he put her into the carriage. And now it's this guy at, I can't remember his name, Mr. Pilcher, who's just met him at the house. So of all of those interactions that she's had so far, or not had, what do you think? Is she surrounded by people who she's used to, or people who she's not used to? Think about it. She's come from a place where she wasn't spoken to. Now these people are talking to her, but they're a little bit are they alienating her? Are they going by the whole children will be seen but not heard way of life? The footman, she's like the smallest part in the whole of that chapter, but she kind of responded well to him, maybe because he was dressed posh and stuff, wasn't he? Oh, that's not the words that Hodgson Burnett used. He was dressed posh. But maybe that's why the smallest part was the biggest thing that stuck in Mary's head. I don't know. And that plush carriage, she talked about that, didn't she? So, anyway, what are your ideas? I'm waffling now. I do like a good waffle at the end of a chapter. Anyway, I'll leave it with you to tell me what you think, all right? And then I'll come and see you tomorrow for Chapter 4. Let's have a little sneak preview how long Chapter 4 is, because Chapter 3 was pretty short. 6 pages, Chapter 3 was. Chapter 4, holy moly moly! Page 26 to page 49. We gonna be here a long time tomorrow. Oh my goodness, it's a good job I'm on my summer holidays. Best you pack an extra big drink for tomorrow night. Alright, see you tomorrow night for a long sesh.